What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Turnbuckle Topics podcast. I'm your host, Pat Dineen, and this is my review of Impact 1000 Night 2. Now, much like Night 1 last week, very good show, very nostalgic. A lot of people from the past, present, of course, whether it was backstage segments, vignettes, promos, matches, you name it, all very, very good. And, I kind of regret not making my way out there for Impact 1000. Took place at the Westchester County Center in White Plains, New York. And it was honestly a 2-for-1 because if you went to Impact 1000, then there's a very good chance the night prior to that you went to Victory Road, which is the most recent pay-per-view that took place for Impact Wrestling. And there was so much, it was such a lengthy show, Impact 1000, that of course they had to split it into two separate episodes. So last week we got Impact 1000 Night 1, 2-hour episode. Then of course Impact 1000 Night 2, again, another 2-hour episode. So it looked like whoever was there that weekend in White Plains, New York definitely got their money's worth. But the little silver lining here that I could live with, at least last month in August, I went to Philadelphia for their previous pay-per-view. Was kind of a Impact and New Japan Pro Wrestling's version of Forbidden Door that we've seen in AEW the last 2 years. It was the Multiverse United 2 show. Now, I know earlier in the year, which I didn't see that show, and certainly I wasn't there, they did that Impact in New Japan. I believe it was also at the 2300 Arena, the old ECW Arena in Philly. Their first version of that was either late winter, early spring, but I was glad to be in the building there. Not a bad seat in the house, plenty of star power on that card. It was worth the hour trip for sure each way. So I could at least have that peace of mind that I made that show, even though I wasn't able to make it here for Impact 1000. But we're going to go over everything start to finish from this show. And again, it was just as good as last week's Night 1. So let's hop right into it here. Again, it took place at the Westchester County Center, White Plains, New York. And it started off with the Ultimate X match. Now, this is a very old school throwback match there. We've seen so many good Ultimate X matches over the years, even earlier this year. But the contestants in this match were Speedball Mike Bailey, Ace Austin of ABC, of course, Bullet Club, right? Former Impact Tag Team Champions. One half of the current Impact Tag Team Champions were in this match. Zachary, Wentz of the Rascals, current champion with Trey Miguel right now. And we had Alan Angels, Rich Swann, and Samuray del Sol, formerly known as Kalisto in WWE. So early on in this match, we saw a beautiful triple moonsault. Then we had Mike Bailey and Alan Angels before we know it, 20 feet in the air. I mean, it was up as high as you could get in this kind of match, if you're familiar with the Ultimate X. And I believe Samurai del Sol was also up there at the very same time, again, trying to get to that X, which will give you an X Division Championship opportunity for that title. So shortly thereafter, we saw Angels, Austin, and Wentz, who actually met Mike Bailey up at the top, and he was getting very close to that X. It looked like at one point Speedball was going to get the job done, but before you knew it, Wentz, as he always does, the Rascals, they're not called that just for any old reason. Wentz threw powder in the face of Ace Austin, making him fall, but then again, Mike Bailey kicked Wentz down as well, just immediately after that. And then Angels went low and knocked him to the ground, knocking Mike Bailey to the ground. He fell as well. And but even though Angels fell as well, he got right back up quickly. He got that X, he grabbed it, and then he made his way down. He nearly lost hold of it on his way down, falling into the hands of Ace Austin. That would have been something. But yeah, he came down with it, and the number one contender now for that X Division Championship is Alan Angels. So good for him, although I don't see him winning that title right away or anytime soon. Not that he's not capable, but Chris Sabin just last week, or Night 1 of Impact 1000, won in what I believe was the main event, defeating Leo Rush, becoming a 10-time X Division champion. It's the second time he won this title this year. And again, 10 times. And he was on the very first episode of TNA, Chris Sabin, and one half of the Motor City Machine Guns, again on Impact 1000, winning gold. Good for him, man. I'm a big fan of Chris Sabin. So it was said that this matchup will take place, though, this coming Thursday for that X Division Championship, Alan Angels versus Chris Sabin. Highly doubt Sabin's going to lose. Again, just becoming a champion for the 10th time, twice in the same year. And he's only held it for a couple of weeks. So I don't see Sabin losing this week. Even though Angels, I do see him being a future X Division champion. I don't think his time is right now. But hey, hopefully, Angels will have better luck than Kushida did at Victory Road going up against Leo Rush. Where he was the Ultimate X, or he had the Ultimate X rather, and it didn't end up as a successful quote-unquote cash-in. So moving on from that, we had a brief match here. Dirty Dango with Alpha Bravo versus Jake Something. Now, Jake Something returned a couple of months ago. Dude is in phenomenal shape, looks incredible. Not much to say about this match. It was very brief. Jake Something got the victory over Dirty Dango. Again, he looks incredible. And I would love to see him in some title contention very soon. You know, I'm not sure what title I'd like to see him go after, but I would definitely like to see him in the title hunt somewhere. Heading backstage here, we have Steve Macklin saying, "When I start something, I intend to finish it." And he says he guesses the War Machine, talking about Rhino, has a little life left in him, but he's going to end Rhino's career because of what happened, what transpired last week. And just as that was said, out of nowhere, Rhino hit Macklin with a gore for the second consecutive week. Last week, it was in the ring, costing Macklin his briefcase that went to the outside, landing directly in the hands of Moose. Talk about right place, right time. So Moose got that opportunity for the Feast or Fired that we'll get to in a little bit, and it ended up working out pretty good for Moose. He's got an opportunity coming up for gold in the very near future. So suddenly we saw the Director of Authority come out of nowhere, Santino Marella. He was very upset, to say the least, with Rhino for causing havoc backstage, taking, again, Macklin out. He put him right through a bunch of equipment in the back, and Marella said, so, you know, what are you doing? You know, what's happening here? And Rhino tells Santino Marella, "Look, Macklin tried to end my career, and so I plan to do the very same to him," followed by a few expletives. And again, this should make for a very good match and feud in the coming weeks. Their next pay-per-view, I want to say, is October 21st, Bound for Glory. So maybe we'll see Macklin and Rhino, have a match there, culminate there. I do think these two will meet in the ring prior to. You have, better part of a month. I don't know if they're going to have a scheduled matchup. I don't believe they have a match scheduled for this Thursday, but I'm sure we'll be seeing these two, cross paths in the very near future. Going to the next matchup we had here, Kenny King, the current Impact Digital Media Champion, versus Eric Young. Now, Kenny King came out, as he always does, with Sheldon Jean, and Eric Young came out with Scott D'Amore, Impact Wrestling President. Now, the very first episode opened up with Team Canada. And so Scott D'Amore made sure he made his way out there waving the Canadian flag with O Canada playing in the background during Eric Young's entrance. And that was cool to see. So Santino Marella recently, I believe it was on night one of Impact 1000, gave the returning Shark Boy a title of Deputy Director of Authority, basically his assistant. And, Shark Boy made his way out to restart the match as a tag team match because things were getting dicey in the very beginning. So we got to see Scott D'Amore, Impact Wrestling President, with Eric Young going up against Kenny King and Sheldon Jean. I thought it was funny seeing Shark Boy put the president of Impact Wrestling in a tag team match. But nonetheless, it wasn't the first time Scott D'Amore has wrestled this year, just a few months ago. I think, what was it, at Emergence? He was in the ring not too long ago. So after that, things got crazy again. We got to see Diener and Khan of The Design come out. They interfered. We got to see Shark Boy yet again make an announcement to restart this match. And then Shark Boy introduced America's Most Wanted. Talk about a throwback. We got to see the Cowboy James Storm and Wildcat Chris Harris, 6-time tag team champions, making this an 8-man tag team matchup. Now, look, this was a lot of fun. Wrestlers from the past, from the present, mixing it up in this match. Served its purpose. Episode's all about nostalgia, good times, good wrestling, even a couple laughs at times, paying homage to Impact Wrestling over the last 2+ decades. The match ended with a pile driver from Eric Young to Sheldon Jean to get the victory. And so I guess you could say the good guys won this one. Now, this was kind of fun here. This was a Feast or Fired segment backstage. We got to see the host of Busted Open Radio's Dave LaGreca host this with the 4 gentlemen that had briefcases, one from the previous week of night one, Impact 1000. So Feast or Fired we had here. They started with, I believe they started with Crazy Steve. Crazy Steve's briefcase opened up. When he opened that up, it held a digital media title opportunity. So, of course, he acted all kinds of crazy, saying all kinds of ridiculous things. I mean, it's in his name. And he's just happy to have a title opportunity in some capacity. So maybe we'll see him mix it up with Kenny King in the very near future. Now, the second one to open up a briefcase was Moose. Now, he was there with Brian Myers. They've been a tag team for the last couple of months, and they were hoping collectively for a tag title opportunity. I know at least certainly Brian Myers was. So it was good news for Moose, but not for Brian Myers, because when Moose opened his briefcase, he held a world title opportunity. So of course he's ecstatic. We'll see who the champion is by the time he gets to the champion. Currently, of course, as it's been for the past couple of months. Alex Shelley's been holding the gold, so we'll see about that. Next up, we had ABC of Bullet Club. We had Chris Bay holding the briefcase, along with Ace Austin. Chris Bay opened it up, and it held a World Tag Team title opportunity. Of course, the one that Myers and Moose were hoping to get. And yeah, so to be honest with you, I was upset when ABC lost their titles a little over a month ago. And so hopefully they could get them back from the Rascals. Final briefcase that we saw here, Yuya Umayura held this briefcase, and they kind of knew what was in store, because the way it goes is one of these briefcases, unfortunately, have the words "fired" written in it. And so, being that the first three briefcases were the Impact Digital Media Championship opportunity, Impact World Championship opportunity, and then, of course, the Impact World Tag Team title opportunity. The writing was on the wall. Yuya and Joe Hendry, who have been pairing up as a tag team relatively recently as well, were both very out of sorts and unhappy, to say the least. So they opened it up knowing the inevitable, and of course, Yuya Umayura was fired. And so that was very, very sad to see. Yuya, as a matter of fact, it was announced on Impact 1000 before the show ended that he'll be having a goodbye ceremony taking place this Thursday on the upcoming episode of Impact Wrestling. So unfortunate, but that's the way it went. I did enjoy that segment, though, collectively. A lot of fun. So next up, we have Trey Miguel with Zachary Wentz, again, the Rascals, the Impact World Tag Team Champions. Now, Trey Miguel was going one-on-one with Josh Alexander. Very good match. Both of these guys can go. We know that. Per usual, the Rascals were up to no good, looking to cheat, as they always do, towards the end. But Alex Shelley, the Impact World Champion, made his way ringside and took out Wentz. Now we're back in the ring. Josh Alexander hits Miguel with his finisher, Divine Intervention. It's a C4 spike. And into the mat for the 1-2-3. Post-match, Alexander gets on the mic and says, "Thank you for being in my corner tonight," to Alex Shelley. He says, "However, I could have used it last week and at Emergence." So a bit of a backhanded compliment, to say the least. Shelley gets on the mic and said, "But you didn't get it," meaning you did not get my help previously to tonight. And he goes, "Don't get your signals mixed up. I wanted to hurt them, not necessarily help you." Alexander says, "It's good you're here, so I can tell you this face to face. I'm taking back my championship, and I'm doing it on the biggest stage at Bound for Glory, October 21st. Now, this was the title that Alexander never lost. He had to relinquish it due to injury this past March. I remember it was just a few weeks before WrestleMania weekend, and that was a very unfortunate happening. So this should be a good one. Again, Bound for Glory, a little less than a month away, taking place in Chicago. Match was made official shortly thereafter. And another match I know that's set to take place that was also announced on this episode of Impact 1000 Night 2, Will Ospreay going up against Speedball Mike Bailey. That should be a really good one. So there was a little segment after this where I know that Mike Bailey proposed a match to Jonathan Gresham, both of them pretty much baby faces these days, to go one-on-one at some point. Gresham agreed to it. Again, I'm sure it's going to deliver, and that was also made official, I believe, for this Thursday. So that should be a good match. Speedball Mike Bailey and Jonathan Gresham. So now heading backstage, the Good Hands ask the Rascals when they'll be receiving their promised tag title opportunity. Wentz shouts that it's not a good time right now, being that Trey Miguel had just lost to Josh Alexander not too long ago, so they weren't in the best of spirits. Then comes along the ABC. Ace Austin and Chris Bay, the new rightful owners of a tag title opportunity briefcase. And they said, so whenever they choose, they will get that opportunity at the Rascals, and I really hope that they do. And so that will be very interesting. I'm assuming that we're going to get ABC challenging the Rascals at Bound for Glory. I think that's a great stage to see those two teams go at it, because all four of these men are just amazing in the ring, in singles and tag team, but specifically tag team. This is going to be a lot of fun, regardless who comes out victorious. So now let's make our way to the main event. This is something I had been looking forward to for the past week, ever since it was announced on Impact 1000's Night 1. Talk about nostalgia to the absolute utmost, and a great way to honor women's wrestling. Say what you want about Impact Wrestling, but if you actually are familiar with their product, regardless of how many people they hold in their venues, this women's roster is very good. And people may say, "Oh, but they can't keep people there." They keep a great nucleus. I know a lot of people, a lot of women specifically bounce to Impact Wrestling, it's kind of like a purgatory, right? Whether they're released from WWE or NXT, or they make their way over from AEW, but then they either go back to WWE or go to AEW and so on. And yes, that does happen a lot. I do understand that, but this women's division collectively always finds a way to replenish themselves. So you cannot sleep on this division. Again, they brought back a ton of people from the past in this match. And so, of course, they had to have a baby faces versus heels type of deal for this match. Now, some of the women that were involved in this match were as follows. We had, on the baby face side of things, we had Jordynne Grace, Mickie James, Gail Kim, Awesome Kong, and the Impact Knockouts champion Trinity going up against Deonna Purrazzo, Tasha Steelz, Gisele Shaw, Savannah Evans, and Angelina Love, one half of the Beautiful People. And Velvet Sky was there, though. She was there ringside, as well as Jay Vidal, who is always with Gisele Shaw and Savannah Evans. This one was good, folks, and I'm going to break it down to the best of my ability here. So we have baby faces versus the heels. Again, 7-time and first ever Knockouts champion Gail Kim lacing up the boots for this one. So that's how you knew it was a big night. This is the type of match you put together in a video game. You know, it's kind of like a fantasy booking dream match type of deal with all these women involved. It really was cool to see them in the ring. Again, Gail Kim, Awesome Kong, unheard of, and always great to see Mickie James. Love Mickie James. This was really good, seeing a bunch of different eras clash all at once. So starting off this match, we had Trinity and Angelina Love going one-on-one. Then we got to see Jordynne Grace and Gisele Shaw go at it. Grace ducked out and kicked her teammate Savannah Evans. That was a big deal, a little miscommunication, especially those two are usually very much so on the same page, being that they've been rolling together the last couple of months. So shortly after that, we got to see Mickie James going face-to-face with Tasha Steelz. Now, you got to remember, Steelz defeated James last year at Sacrifice to win the Knockouts Championship for the very first time. So they have some brief history there. We saw Gail Kim and Gisele Shaw go at it. Then Purrazzo got to go to Gail Kim. Awesome Kong took out Shaw, Love, Purrazzo, Steelz, and then met Evans. Two Titans going at it, seeing Savannah Evans and going one-on-one with Awesome Kong for just a bit there. Then we saw Gail Kim with a top rope spot, taking out all the ladies on the outside. Awesome Kong choke slams Gisele Shaw, then hits her with, I believe, what's called the Implant Buster, finishing maneuver for the win. Great to see the baby faces win. Of course, you know, I'm a big baby face guy. I think those were the rightful winners, though. And very emotional after the victory. Awesome Kong, again, I know she had an appearance at what I believe was NWA 73 2 years ago. It was August, September pay-per-view. And on that very first night of NWA Empower, it was a 2-night pay-per-view, right? The very first night was NWA Empower, the all-women's pay-per-view, and then night 2 was NWA 73 in Missouri, I believe. So anyway, Gail Kim and Awesome Kong had a warm embrace in that ring 2 years ago, and we all thought, hey, although it wasn't a wrestling match, it was just them speaking heart to heart how they felt about one another. They hugged it out. Awesome Kong was crying a whole lot. Gail Kim was very emotional, and I thought that was the last time we'd ever see them in the ring. And so just, 2+ years later, getting to see them on the very same team wrestling in a 5-on-5 matchup, past and present, all involved, I thought that was really, really cool. Awesome Kong, she was brought to AEW when they began in 2019. The last time I remember seeing Awesome Kong lace up the boots was when she had Brandy Rhodes kind of as her manager, and very brief stint. It might have been, again, when AEW began in 2019, early 2020. And then I think by the time COVID hit, Awesome Kong was done with AEW. I guess she decided this full-time schedule type of deal is just a bit too much for her, and I respect that at that stage of her career. So again, this was very good to see. Post-match, the Beautiful People attacked Jay Vidal and put a brown paper bag on Jay's head, a signature of what they did during their run in TNA. Overall, quality show, feel-good show. Picked up right where they left off from the first half of Impact 1000. Nothing but good things to say in regards to that. Now, Impact Wrestling, their social media, right? Shortly after the show was over, they posted a picture as the winning team, the babyfaces, held up their hands. Gail Kim, Awesome Kong, Trinity, Mickie James, and who am I forgetting here? And of course, Jordynne Grace, right? And when they were all holding up their hands in victory, they zoomed in on Trinity and Mickie James. And of course, Trinity's holding up her hands with her championship, her Knockouts championship, and multi-time Knockouts champion Mickie James was looking up at the title. So Mickie James wasn't too fond of Impact posting that on their social media. So she wrote out shortly thereafter, "I need to talk to the Impact Wrestling social media team. I see you. You kind of did me dirty there." So giving, maybe that's some early foreshadowing, giving it away that Mickie James, even though she's a babyface at this very moment in time, as is Trinity, just might want an opportunity at that Knockouts Championship. Hey, look, that's a match I would love to see. I don't recall them having a program in WWE, at least nothing of significance, certainly not with the title involved. So, look, if you're going to line up Trinity and Mickie James, whether it's sometime in 2023, early 2024, let's do it, because I am completely 110% on board for that pairing. Now, it was announced that at Bound for Glory on October 21st in Chicago, they will honor the iconic, incomparable announce team, as they wrote on their social media account, of Mike Tenay and the late Don West, who passed away recently. I believe it was early 2023 or late 2022. And they'll be inducted into the Impact Hall of Fame. So that's great breaking news that we had just found out. Great way to honor them too, honestly. So, geez, I remember following Mike Tenay from his WCW days. Tony Schiavone, Bobby the Brain Heenan, Mike Tenay, you name it. So on Nitro and all that. So good for them. Very, very nice to hear. And yeah, that pretty much does it for Impact 1000 Night 2. So if you caught the show, or at least caught, one of the episodes, one or two, hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully it took you back, even if you're not a constant Impact fan. I'll be honest with you, I wasn't a big TNA guy back in the day. When I got back into wrestling many years ago, I caught up on what I had missed. The heyday. Whether it was Sting, Kurt Angle, Kevin Nash, who else? Scott Steiner, right? So many others. Booker T was there. The Main Event Mafia, Samoa Joe, AJ Styles, of course, Bully Ray, Devon. So I mean, the list goes on, and of course, the entirety of the women's division, which I named a lot during that most recent main event at Impact 1000 Night 2. So, it's just a lot of fun to watch this. If you were an actual fan of pro wrestling, it was worth tuning into either of these shows the last couple of weeks. So that just about does it here, folks. Thank you for tuning in to the Turnbuckle Topics podcast. I'm your host, Pat Dineen, and I'll catch you next time. Thanks for listening.